Hey, what's up guys? On today's video, we are going to talk about programming paradigms. Programming paradigms are different ways or style to write code or to organize your code. So for each paradigm consists of certain structures and features and on its own opinions on how to solve programming problems. There's a question saying like why there are so many programming paradigms. The question is like why there are so many programming languages. As we all know, when we're doing a project, there are so many different problems. So some of the programming paradigms is more suitable to solve certain problem. So that's why there are so many programming paradigms to we can use in the different projects. So today, let's dive in, have a look. We're gonna introduce five programming paradigms. Alright, for first one we are going to talk about is called imperative programming. For imperative programming, it consists of a set of detailed structures. So we let computer to execute that step by step, and we tell them what to do instead of we tell them how to do it. Let me give you an example. Like if we want to make a bakery, we tell them like pour flour, get some eggs, add some milk, mix ingredient, pour the mix in the mold, cook that in the oven, and we can get that ready. So we're gonna do that. We'll give you another example in coding. So for coding, for instance, we have a for coding, if we want to do is we're gonna give it an array of random number. So what we want to get is we want to filter out the a number which is greater than 5. So let's say we have a number of array with the random number. Okay, let's say it's just a random number, and what we're gonna do is we give it a instruction. We want to loop that through with for loop. And we need to check if number is greater than 5. Then we're gonna put that in a array. Result. As you can see, we can get the result here. Okay, for imperative programming is we need to tell computer what to do in details, and it's gonna follow the order to execute the code. Next one we are going to do is called procedural programming. Procedural programming is the derivation of imperative programming. So user is encouraged to subdivide the programming execution into a functions. Let's give you an example. Okay, for the bakery here, let's say we can subdivide that into a function. Like for instance here, we can have a function called pour ingredients function. So for this function, it gonna It's gonna do these three steps, and we can get another function, say mix and bake. So it's gonna mix and bake. Then we call these two functions. Okay, compare procedural programming and the imperative programming. Imperative programming, like you have to do all steps, and for procedural programming, what you need to do is you just need to call two functions at the end of the file, and we get the idea what's going on here, like putting ingredient, mix and bake, which is like more clear, more easy to read. Okay guys, so next one we are going to have a look is called functional programming. Before we talking functional programming, I want to declare some core concept of functional programming. In some of the programming language like JavaScript, they treat function as a first-class citizen. Let's say first-class citizens. So for first-class citizen, they have some. For first-class citizen, the function can be assigned to a variable, and the function can be passed as an argument to another function, and in the function you can return another function. Function return functions. Another concept for functional programming is called pure function. Pure function, the definition of pure function is same input, always return same output, and have no side effect. So side effect means it's not it does not change anything outside this function. So for this imperative programming, let's change that to programming. Let's change that to functional programming. Let's say we have a function called filter number. For next one, I want to talk about is called declarative programming. So for declarative programming is all about to hide away complexity, and bring the code is for human readable. Let's give you an example. So for this block of code, we can rewrite it with the declarative programming. So what we can do is we can use the function called filter. Inside the filter, for each number, we can have a check if num is greater than 5. As you can see, we got a result, same result here. But for declarative programming, it's like more easier to understand, easier to read. As we can see, we have a method called filter. we don't need to know what exactly going on behind the scene. So what we need to know is just we know how to use this method. And for declarative programming, it's more easier because like for this you have like five lines of code, and for declarative programming you only use the one line of code to tackle same problem. Okay, as we all know, we can print out the results here, and we have the result in as here is an internal variable, so it's not outside the function, it's inside the function, so it has no side effect. So the good thing about functional programming is it make the it have a response and the modular code, and it's more easier to maintain. Hi, for next one we're gonna do is called object-oriented programming. So core concept of object-oriented programming is to separate concerns into entities. So for each of entity, right, you have inform and actions for this entity. So we're gonna initial entity as an object. Let's give you an example then. So let's say for these procedures, these steps, what we can do is we can separate them as two entities. So we're gonna create an entity in code, so we call it a class. Class basically is a template. We say class is a template for object. So for the class, we can for two responsibility. The first responsibility is to pulling things. We can get a class name called assistant chef. Assistant chef. And we're gonna give it a name. And what assistant chef responsibility is to pull ingredient. Say pull ingredient. Let's copy that. That's responsibility for assistant chef. And we get create another entity, let's say class as a head chef. We give it a name. So responsibility for head chef is to mix stuff and bake. Let's copy that. Yeah, we got a responsibility for assistant chef. What he does is step 1, 2, 3, and the responsibility for head chef, the step is 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need to create a instance. Let's say instance name. Let's call assistant chef called Frank. We need to instantiate a class that's assistant chef. Let's give it a name, Frank. And let's say Mike, head chef. So for assistant chef Frank, his responsibility is to pour ingredients, and the head chef Mike, his responsibility is to mixing and bake. And we're gonna call this method. As you can see, we separate the responsibility to two chefs. One is assistant chef and the head chef, and we call the pour ingredient. What assistant chef is, he do all these 3 steps, and then we call mixing bake, and and then he does the rest of the steps. So that's Oriental programming language. That's object-oriented programming language. They just separate the responsibility to different entities. Hey guys, that's the video for today. We have covered 5 programming paradigms. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys on next video. See you guys.